Welcome to the Girl That Got Up podcast. A safe space for the woman who tried to survive things that she never should have experienced. The woman who became strong too early, loved from broken places, and carried pain in silence. This is more than a podcast. This is healing. This is honesty. This is becoming. I'm Latisha, and this is not just a podcast. This is where the version of me I buried finally gets a voice. Because the truth is, I didn't lose myself as a grown woman. I lost myself as a little girl, right? I had to ask myself, why do they keep doing me this way? And start asking, what is my part? The title of this episode is Why Accountability Changed My Life. Can I tell you something that was hard for me to admit? For a long time, I had a victim mentality. I'm not saying that to shame the woman I used to be. I'm saying it because I had to be honest with myself. I thought everything was happening to me. People were hurting me. People were disrespecting me. People were betraying me. People were abandoning me. People weren't showing up for me. But I could tell you exactly what everybody else had done. But if you asked me, Latisha, what was your part? I didn't have the answer. I didn't have a clue because I wasn't looking at my part. I was looking for someone to blame. And accountability changed my life because one day God gave me a realization. You can't change what you refuse to take accountability for or responsibility for, right? And I had to realize something. Taking accountability doesn't mean I'm saying everything that happened to me was my fault. No, some people genuinely hurt me. Some people made choices that had nothing to do with me. Some people really mishandled me. Some people really betrayed me. But I still had a part in some of those cycles I kept repeating. And that was the part I did not want to look at because it was easier to say everybody kept hurting me than to say, why do I keep giving people access to me after they have shown me who they truly were already? It's easier to say nobody respects me than it is to ask, have I been communicating my boundaries clearly? It's easy to say people don't understand me than to ask, have I actually listened to understand them? I was always ready to defend myself. I realized something about myself. When somebody would tell me how I made them feel, I would already prepare for my response. Before they could even finish, I had an explanation. But I said it because that's not what I meant. But you did this. You don't understand what I was going through. And maybe all of those things were true, but I was missing something. They weren't necessarily asking me to defend myself. Sometimes they was asking me to hear them. And I had to learn that listening isn't agreeing. Listening is understanding. And I had to stop listening just to respond and start listening to understand. Right? Accountability forced me to look in the mirror and I had to ask myself, am I showing up in a relationship the way I'm asking people to show up for me? Because I can say I want respect, but am I respectful? I can say I want healthy communication, but how do I communicate when I'm angry? I can say I want someone to listen to me, but do I listen? I can say I want someone to apologize when they wrong, but can I apologize without adding a but at the end? Because anything after but is BS. Because sometimes we asking people to give us things that we're not practicing ourselves. That does not mean you can cause their behavior, right? But I need to make this clear because accountability can be misunderstood. If someone lies to you, their lie is their responsibility. If someone cheats, their decision is their responsibility. If someone abuses you, their abuse is their responsibility. If someone mistreats you, you don't become responsible for their behavior simply because you weren't perfect. But accountability asks, what did I tolerate? What did I participate in? What did I overlook? What did I communicate? What did I ignore? What did I continuously allow to repeat itself? Where do I need better boundaries? That's where my power came back. When I started apologizing, I had to learn how to say I was wrong. Not I'm sorry you feel that way. Not I'm sorry I made you do it. Not I'm sorry you misunderstood me. Just I was wrong. The way I said that was disrespectful. I used the wrong tone. I wasn't listening. I allowed my emotions to control the conversation. I said something that tore you down instead of building you up. I'm sorry. And sometimes the hardest apology is the one you owe yourself. Because I had to apologize to myself for the years I abandoned my own needs and ignored my own boundaries and accepted things that were beneath what I knew I deserved, right? Accountability gave me my power back. Before accountability, I was waiting for everyone else to change. I needed them to apologize. I needed them to understand. I needed them to admit what they did wrong. I needed them to become different. before I could be different. But accountability changed that, because now I can say I can't control what you do, but I can control what I do next. That's freedom, that's maturity, and that's growth. So some of the practical steps that I took, and I'm going to give these practical steps so that you can implement them into your life. 1, ask, what's my part? When conflict happens, don't immediately ask what they did to me. Ask, what did I contribute to in this situation? Maybe it's your tone. Maybe it's you avoiding that hard conversation. Maybe you ignore a boundary that you had set up in place to try to people please. Maybe you reacted instead of responding. Maybe you stayed somewhere you knew you shouldn't have been. God told you get up out of that relationship several times. Find your part. Not all of it, but your part, the part that you played. Number 2, listen without preparing your defense. The next time someone tells you this is how you made me feel, don't immediately explain. Say, help me understand. Let them finish what they're stating before you just butt in and get into defensive mode. Ask questions and then sit with what they say. You don't have to agree with every detail to learn something from their perspective. Number 3, practice the no but apology. Try this. I was wrong. I understand how that affected you. I'm sorry. Here's what I'm going to do differently. And then actually change the behavior. Because an apology without changed behavior immediately becomes manipulation. Right? Number 4, keep an accountability journal. After a difficult interaction, write what happened, what they did, what did you do, what you was feeling, what you assumed, and what you could have communicated better. And what will you do differently the next time? This helps you separate their responsibilities from yours. Number 5, stop confusing accountability with shame. You made a mistake. That doesn't mean you're a bad person. You handle something poorly. Does not mean that you're incapable of growth. You hurt somebody. That does not mean that you don't have the opportunity to repair what you can and change how you show up moving forward. Accountability says I did something wrong. Shame says I am wrong. Those are not the same things, right? Number 6, watch your patterns. If you constantly say, this always happens to me, pause, ask, what keeps repeating itself? Because repeating outcomes becomes examination. Maybe it's the people you choosing. Maybe it's the boundaries that you have not yet enforced it. Maybe it's the communication style you're using. Maybe it's the things that you're tolerating and that you don't realize you're tolerating those things. Maybe it's the version of yourself you're bringing into every relationship. Patterns are invitations to investigate. The biggest problem, I don't look at accountability the same way anymore. Accountability isn't about me beating myself up. It's about saying I love myself enough to tell myself the truth. I don't need to make myself the villain in my story and in somebody else's story. I don't need to make myself completely innocent either. I can acknowledge that someone hurt me. I can acknowledge that I hurt people too. I can acknowledge that I was mistreated, and I can acknowledge that I sometimes stayed too long than I should have. I can acknowledge that sometimes someone didn't communicate with me properly. I can acknowledge that I did not always communicate properly either. Both things can be true, and that's where maturity begins. So if you're listening to me today, I want you to stop asking only, why do people keep doing me this way? And start asking, what is this teaching me about me? Because the moment I stopped waiting for everybody else to change, I finally had something I could work with, me. And that's when everything started to change. My relationship changed, my communications changed, my boundaries changed, my standards changed, my relationship with God changed, and most importantly, I changed. I'm no longer interested in being right more than I'm interested in being wrong. I'm no longer interested in being right more than I'm interested in being whole. I'm no longer interested in winning arguments if I lose relationships. I'm no longer interested in defending a version of me that God is trying to grow me out of, because I'm building something different now. And I'm building a legacy that requires a woman who's willing to look in that mirror and say, even when the mirror tells her something she doesn't want to see. So today, ask yourself, what's my part? Not to condemn yourself, not to shame yourself, but so you can change it, because you can't change what you refuse to acknowledge. You can't build a new life with the same patterns that destroyed the old one. I am Latisha. This is the Girl That Got Up podcast, where healing becomes legacy, faith becomes action, and accountability becomes freedom. It's all God, no breaks, and no breaks on healing, no breaks on becoming, and no breaks on getting a life that you truly deserve, that God has for you. So I will see you guys on the next episode. Love you, love you, love you, love you.